Donald Trump just fixed one of the key challenges when it comes to deportations in just 11 minutes. Yeah, that's got to be a world record of some sort. And it really makes you wonder, why didn't the Joe Biden administration do this? You know, they talked a lot about how challenging it was to secure the border. But if Trump could have done this in 11 minutes, it really makes you wonder, what were these other administrations doing? So it's been a whirlwind first week. Since day one, Trump has been delivering on his promises. That includes securing the southern border, carrying out deportation raids. But the key challenge is getting the other countries to accept these flights. So 2 flights were headed to Colombia, and they turned those flights away. Well, Donald Trump took to Truth Social, and he posted this: "I was just informed that 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia." And then at the bottom, Trump outlines his decisive retaliatory measures. First of all, an emergency 25% tariff on all goods coming from Colombia to the United States. And if they don't comply in 1 week, then those 25% tariffs are going to double to 50%, a travel ban and visa revocations, as well as visa sanctions on the Colombian government officials, party members, family members, enhanced customs and border protection inspections, and then banking and financial sanctions to be fully imposed. Now, guess what happened? According to CNN, Colombia's president just offered his presidential plane to help repatriate deportees from the United States. You can't make this stuff up. In other words, 2 planes were sent to Colombia. Colombia denied them. Trump announced, hey, I'm going to retaliate with these measures. He was going to retaliate peacefully. There was no threat of military action and nothing like that. It was just all economic sanctions. And in less than 11 minutes, Colombia's president offered to use his own presidential plane to help transport and take back their migrants. Now, let's take a look at this timeline for a second. This is a screenshot from CNN. First of all, take a look at the bottom. Trump is issuing emergency 25% tariffs. Take a look in red. That was published 52 minutes ago, 52 minutes as of the making of this video. Now, the latest update on the feed above that, where Colombia's president offers his plane to help take back the migrants, 41 minutes ago. So in other words, an 11-minute gap between these 2 stories. Now, because of how news stations work, that 11-minute gap is probably actually slower than how the story transpired, because they had to confirm and authenticate the story, and then they had to take the time to type it out and publish it onto their website. So that 11 minutes is actually probably slower, a more conservative guess of how fast and how effective Trump's decisive actions were. And after all of this transpired, Trump actually went back onto Truth Social and posted this AI-generated meme of himself. It's him in a cool fedora type hat with the text FAFO behind him. For those of you who aren't familiar with internet slang, it stands for F around and find out. Just absolutely gangster. And it just shows that with strong leadership, with decisive leadership, with someone who actually follows through on a plan of action, and by the way, follows through on their promises, we can do great things. Now, one of the top stories of the week was the Haitian migrant who was apprehended during one of the ICE raids. And as he was being put into the SUV, he says F Trump, and then he praises both Biden and Obama. But there's something really curious about how he phrases this. Take a listen.
Not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro? Biden forever, bro? In case you weren't already convinced that the previous administrations, it's one thing to not address the crisis at the border or to prioritize other issues. However, it's another thing entirely when you are proactively making the lives of those illegal immigrants better. I mean, on a human level, no one hates the illegal migrants. No one is dehumanizing them. No one is trying to hurt them. But people are upset that the federal government has gone out of its way while people are actively suffering from Hurricane Helene, while people are still actively suffering from the California wildfires, that the federal government is giving freebies away to people who have entered the country illegally. In other words, it's ignoring its own citizens to help improve the lives of others, to help improve the lives of people that it's not supposed to be helping. I thought the federal government was supposed to serve us. I thought they were supposed to help us, not the world. Instead, what they've done is they tax us to the brim, they make our lives miserable, and then give freebies to everyone else. It is a joke. And so when Trump is handling things the way he is, no wonder his approval rating is through the roof. And by the way, not just me saying this, not just conservative media or conservative influencers saying this, CNN's Harry Enten talked about how Trump's approval rating is at a historic high. And in fact, he was on with Kate Boldham, who was on air and just making faces throughout his entire segment. And at one point, she even says, I can't believe this. I can't believe you're saying this. And Harry Enten says, well, the numbers are the numbers.
This is a very different Donald Trump. He's leading a very different administration, the way he's attacking things. And the American public is very much more in line with him than they were at any point during his entire first term.
Well, I would say, correction, this is not a very different Donald Trump. This is a very different Donald Trump as being viewed by voters in this
in the way he's going about things with Susan Wiles leading things. I think he is, going at things in a much less disorganized fashion, much more organized.
Take me back in history.
Take you back in history. So it was so interesting to me that Donald Trump's first net approval rating of his second term is higher than his entire first term. And I was interested, has that ever happened? Has the second term net approval rating in the first month, have you ever had a higher rating than any net approval rating during the entire first term? Donald Trump is the only...
I have a really hard time believing this.
This is 100% true. I went back. I love spreadsheets. Donald Trump's is the first guy ever whose net approval rating in the first month of his second term is higher than any rating that he had as an entire first term, Kate Baldwin. This is true. I don't make stuff up. The numbers are the numbers.
I believe you.
Just absolutely great. And that's why we see the Democrats struggling. They are not able to figure out any sort of counter resistance measures to Donald Trump. They're just flailing around, throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. Now, Hakeem Jeffries posted this just terrible meme on social media. And of course, perpetual online troll Harry Sisson had to repost it on his X account. But it goes like this. Wait. The price of eggs and the cost of living was supposed to go down, not up. Well, first of all, Hakeem and Harry Sisson, it's only been a few days. I'm looking at my calendar. It's January 26th. Donald Trump was inaugurated the 20th. It hasn't even been a full week. And you're complaining that he hasn't fixed everything? What a joke. Give me a break. Second of all, I seem to remember the Democrats saying that the economy was in great shape. During the election, during Joe Biden's term, they tried to minimize inflation. They tried to minimize, they kept insisting that there was no recession. They kept insisting that Americans are better off than they've ever been. Yet they're complaining that Trump isn't bringing down prices fast enough. Wait a minute, I thought they said that he was inheriting a great economy. If he's inheriting a great economy, why does he need to bring down prices in the first place? I mean, they are exposing themselves. And not only are they exposing themselves as just being stupid, but they're exposing themselves as being dishonest. Keep this up, Democrats, and you're going to lose. You're going to get a slacken in 2028 as well. Well, it is not just Hakeem Jeffries. It is not just Harry Sisson. It's also the mainstream media. But you know what? The mainstream media is going to do what the mainstream media does, which is coddle the Democrat Party. So J.D. Vance went on CBS this morning, and Margaret Brennan just kept hounding him on every single issue, including, yes, inflation, and she was complaining about bacon and eggs and all this stuff. Well, J.D. Vance, his answer to her nagging, quite frankly, it was a masterclass.
And there was record oil and gas production.
Yes, Joe Biden did many terrible things to lead to an increase in prices. I agree, Margaret.
No, but all the things you experience at the grocery store are what people touch and feel. That's what you were talking about, bacon on the campaign trail.
Of course. of course.
Those things, when do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives?
Well, but Margaret, how does bacon get to the grocery store? It comes on trucks that are fueled by diesel fuel. If the diesel's way too expensive, the bacon's going to become more expensive. How do we grow the bacon? Our farmers need energy to produce it. So if we lower energy prices, we are going to see lower prices for consumers, and that is what we're trying to fight for.
Well, even the phrasing of her question, when are consumers going to touch and feel these lowered costs? Again, it goes back to the question. I thought the economy was great. I thought you guys told us inflation wasn't an issue. And now all of a sudden they're hounding J.D. Vance and the Trump administration for not fixing things, even though they haven't even been in office for a week. You guys are an absolute joke. Now, of course, J.D. Vance was absolutely right with his answer, but there's more than that. It's also the red tape and the regulation. And one of the big sins, I think, of the federal government has been making life and making business harder for the farmers. And what they've been doing is they've been helping these huge corporate farm companies, and they've been really hurting the family farmers. I get that there's the bird flu going around, right? That's the official excuse for why there's been an egg shortage. But if we had family farms that were thriving everywhere locally, I mean, would bird flu like take them all out? I don't know a lot about farming. I'm not a farmer. However, I would think that having very strong local family farms would at least be a hedge against things like the bird flu. But because we have these giant corporations where they have these huge warehouses filled with chicken, if one gets infected, no wonder they all get infected and get sick, and we have the shortages that we're seeing now. So I think it is an issue that has a lot of factors. And yes, a lot of those issues can be directly blamed on overregulation or just unwise decisions from the previous administration. So the Democrats are trying to throw that against Donald Trump. Like I said, they quite haven't found their groove yet, and they are throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And one of the lines of attack is, well, Donald Trump is just cutting spending everywhere, as if that's a bad thing. So one of the things that they're attacking now is this. According to the Associated Press, State Department freezes new funding for nearly all U.S. aid programs worldwide. And the Democrats are all saying, well, that's terrible. Trump is against humanitarian efforts. He's against helping people who need food. And I get it. Look, just on a human level, it is terrible that we still have people in the world who are starving. It's terrible that there are people who still don't have clean drinking water. However, our national debt is $30 trillion. Now, just to put this into perspective for you, the annual GDP in 2023, and I can't use 2024 because we don't quite know those numbers yet, but in 2023, the gross domestic product was $27.36 trillion. In other words, we could have taxed everyone's productivity in 2023 at 100%, and we would still be $3 trillion in debt. Yes, we have to cut spending. And you know what? I would rather cut it on those overseas programs helping out other countries before cutting our own spending. And of course, we have to cut it here. And that's why we're cutting programs across the board. Because, quite frankly, the federal government isn't supposed to be in charge of half of those problems. Half of them should be left up to the states and local governments. And you know what? If we don't solve the spending, whatever financial crisis comes is going to be so much worse than these cut budgets and cut programs. It'll be devastating for everyone. So yes, we have to get our national spending under control. And if Trump's going to prioritize spending domestically versus these overseas humanitarian aid programs, does this mean that we can't ever help other people in need? No, of course not. But just think about it on a personal level. Forget about the country level. If you were in credit card debt, does it make any sense to take out more credit card debt so you can give to the homeless? No. But that's what we've been doing as a country, and Trump is finally getting it under control. And the reason I wanted to point that up is because, like I said, the Democrats are trying to find their footing. They're trying to find their line of attack. They're trying to find where they can resist. And I've been seeing complaints all over social media about, oh, Trump is cutting this and Trump is cutting that. And it's being painted as if Trump hates people. But what he's doing is handling the national debt crisis, handling our annual deficit. A lot of Republicans have talked about that for years, but he is actually doing it. So you know what? I can't complain. And like I said earlier, Trump's approval rating is at a historic high. In fact, it's so high, believe it or not, that Trump is actually more popular than the governor in New Jersey. So according to Mediaite, a New Jersey poll reveals Trump more popular than Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. Trump's approval rating standing at 48% in New Jersey. Compare that to Governor Murphy, a Democrat, who his approval rating is 44%. So Trump's approval 4 points higher than the governor of New Jersey. Hey, is New Jersey in swing next election? I don't know, but if things continue on this track, it sure looks like it. Because in 2024, that gap in New Jersey between Trump and Kamala was really small. It was in the single digits. Personally, I think if things keep going down this track, New Jersey could one day, if not next cycle, be in play. Now, one more story before we leave. In a previous video, I talked about how Joe Biden's pardons could backfire. And I talked about how everyone who received a pardon can actually reject it. And it wasn't just me saying that. Well, Adam Schiff went on NBC and he was asked straight up, why don't you just reject the pardon if you don't want it? And seeing Adam Schiff squirm in his chair is just glorious.
And of course, President Biden did issue pardons to members of the January 6th committee. You were on the January 6th committee. It came after President Trump said that he thought the entire January 6th committee should go to jail. What's interesting, Senator, you had been quite vocal. You didn't want President Biden to give you a pardon. You went so far as to convey that to the White House. So what are you going to do about the fact that you've now been given a pardon? Are you going to accept it, or are you planning to look for some type of legal recourse to reject it?
We're looking at it. I'm not sure there's much to be done, given that it went to the whole committee. This is also, I think, unprecedented. In the first instance, it was a result of the president wrongfully threatening to go after people who oversee his misconduct in a legitimate committee process. Nevertheless, we'll have to look at this as a committee to see if there's anything to be done.
What does that mean you're going to look at it? Does that mean that you'll make a decision collectively about whether to accept these pardons?
We have tried to operate together as a committee, and I think the law is unclear because this is frankly uncharted territory. Whether pardons of this nature are like a law in which you're powerless to say yay or nay, or there's something different.
It is quite murky, but it sounds like what you're saying is we'll look at it, but most likely you're going to have to accept this pardon whether you like it or not.
It may not be actionable one way or another unless there is actually some kind of bogus effort to prosecute the committee.
This is so dumb. So MSNBC, first of all, let me just say, you can reject a pardon. That was ruled by the United States Supreme Court. I covered that in a previous video. Adam Schiff knows this. And in fact, MSNBC, the network he likes going on the most, they featured this woman who participated in the January 6th protest, and she rejected Donald Trump's pardon. She was in jail for January 6th, and she rejected the pardon because now she's been brainwashed by the media, and she now believes that she was an insurrectionist, and she's saying, well, it was an insurrection, and I did something wrong, and I'm going to pay for my crimes. So you can find this. She went on MSNBC and said, I reject this pardon. It is possible. Adam Schiff knows this. Now, the reason that Adam Schiff has been waffling back and forth, can I take the pardon? Do I reject it? Is it even possible? Is because he's been so publicly vocal about not wanting a pardon, similar to Adam Kinzinger. So he in his heart of hearts, he wants one because he's a scared little man. But he just has to save face. So he's going to put on this whole show. He's going to put on a facade, a charade, saying that he doesn't want it and he's going to look into all options. But at the end of the day, trust me, he's going to take that pardon. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So, how would you rank Donald Trump's first week back in office? On a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being, man, it is awesome, it has exceeded expectations, and 1 just being, oh, that's terrible, I'm disappointed. Let me know. Scale from 1 to 10, rank it down below, and feel free to tell me what your favorite thing he's done so far is. Like, what's been the highlight of this first week, and maybe what surprised you? Because honestly, I'm surprised at the breakneck speed at which everything has been happening. I've been expecting a lot, but for me personally, it really has exceeded expectations, and I'm excited to see what is to come. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.